3 years of loving a man who didn't know I existed. That's what I thought about every morning at 6 a.m. when I got on my knees to polish his marble floors. The cold stone bit through my uniform as I worked in slow, methodical circles. The Los Angeles skyline was just beginning to glow pink through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and Kang Doo-jun's penthouse was silent except for the soft swish of my cloth against the marble. I'd become an expert at silence. At taking up no space. At breathing so quietly that I might as well have been a ghost haunting these pristine rooms. He preferred it that way. At least, I assumed he did. In 3 years, Kang Doo-jun had never told me what he preferred. He'd never told me anything at all. I sat back on my heels, wiping sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. My reflection stared up at me from the polished floor. Brown skin. Dark eyes that used to hold more light. Hair pulled back in a bun so tight it gave me headaches by noon. I looked like exactly what I was. The help. The first day I walked into this penthouse, I was 24 years old, broke, and so deep in grief I could barely see straight. Marcus had been dead for 3 months. My baby brother, gunned down in a drive-by that the cops called wrong place, wrong time. My mother's medical bills were piling up like snowdrifts. I needed money. I needed it fast. And the agency said a Korean businessman was looking for a live-in housekeeper. No experience necessary. Discretion required. They didn't mention he was the head of the most powerful crime syndicate on the West Coast. By the time I figured that out, I was already drowning in debt and my mother was already hooked up to machines that cost more per day than I used to make in a month. So I stayed. I cleaned his floors. I washed his sheets. I cooked meals he barely touched. I became invisible. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with him. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. I knew that. Kang Doo-jun wasn't the kind of man you fell in love with. He was the kind of man you feared. The kind of man who could make people disappear with a phone call. The kind of man whose eyes held nothing but ice and whose voice could freeze blood. But I'd seen other things too. Small things. The way he sat alone on the balcony at 3 a.m., staring at nothing. The way his jaw tightened whenever Minister Kwon mentioned family. The way he sometimes paused outside my door at night, his shadow visible through the crack at the bottom, before walking away without knocking. I'd built an entire fantasy life out of those crumbs. Pathetic. I pushed myself to my feet, ignoring the ache in my knees, and gathered my supplies. The kitchen was next. Then the living room. Then his office, if he'd already left for the day. I had a rhythm. A routine. It kept me sane. I was halfway to the kitchen when his bedroom door opened. My heart stopped. It always did when I saw him. Kang Doo-jun stepped into the hallway, shirtless, a towel slung low around his hips. Water droplets traced paths down his chest. His black hair was wet, pushed back from his face, and the morning light caught the hard planes of his stomach, the tattoo that curved over his left shoulder and disappeared down his back. He was beautiful. Terrifying and beautiful. I pressed myself against the wall, making room for him to pass. Head down. Eyes on the floor. Invisible. He walked toward me. Past me. His arm brushed mine. Just barely. Just enough to make my skin burn. He didn't look at me. He never looked at me. I exhaled slowly, counting to 10, waiting for my heartbeat to settle. This was normal. This was every day. This was the vase. I don't know how it happened. My elbow, maybe. Or my hip as I turned. But the crystal vase on the hallway table wobbled, tipped, and crashed to the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot. I dropped to my knees immediately, hands scrambling to gather the shards. Stupid, stupid, stupid. That vase probably cost more than 6 months of my salary. He was going to fire me. He was going to. He stopped walking. I froze, still on my knees, glass glittering around me like fallen stars. My breath caught in my throat. I waited for his voice. The cold command to get out. To leave and never come back. Silence. He didn't turn around. He didn't speak. He just stood there, his bare back to me, water still dripping from his hair onto his shoulders. Then he kept walking. Disappeared into the kitchen. A moment later, I heard the coffee machine whir to life. That was it. No acknowledgement. No anger. Nothing. I wasn't even worth his irritation. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, refusing to cry, and went back to collecting the glass. A shard sliced across my palm. Blood welled up, bright red against my brown skin. I bit my lips so hard I tasted copper. I didn't make a sound. By noon, my hand was bandaged and the vase was replaced with an identical one I'd found in a storage closet. By evening, I'd almost convinced myself the morning had never happened. I was folding laundry in the small room off the kitchen when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Vincent Cha. A small flutter moved through my chest. Vincent had been calling for 3 weeks now. Just checking in, he said. Just making sure you're okay. He was Doo-jun's right hand, his most trusted friend, but he always had a smile for me. Always said my name like it mattered. I picked up. Hello? Amara. His voice was warm. It always was. How's your day going? Fine. I tucked the phone between my ear and shoulder, continuing to fold. Same as always. That bad, huh? He laughed softly. You know, you work too hard. When's the last time you did something for yourself? I tried to remember. Couldn't. I don't know. That's what I thought. A pause. Listen, I know this is forward, but have coffee with me. Today. After your shift. My hands stilled on a pillowcase. I don't think that's. Just coffee, Amara. You deserve to be seen. You know that, right? You deserve someone who actually notices you. The words hit something soft inside me. Something bruised. I thought about this morning. The shattered vase. The bleeding hand. The man who couldn't even be bothered to turn around. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay. Coffee. Great. I could hear his smile through the phone. I'll pick you up at 7. Out front. I hung up and pressed the phone to my chest, heart pounding. It wasn't a date. It was just coffee. With a man who actually spoke to me. Who knew my name. Who looked at me like I was a person and not a piece of furniture. What was so wrong with that? I turned to leave the laundry room. And stopped. The hallway was empty. But something felt off. The air felt heavier. Watched. I looked toward the shadows near the stairwell, squinting. Nothing. I shook my head. I was being paranoid. I went back to work. 7 o'clock came. Then 8. Then 9. Coffee had turned into dinner. Dinner had turned into a walk along the pier. Vincent made me laugh. Actually laugh. He asked about Marcus, and I told him. He asked about my mother, and I cried a little, and he handed me a napkin and didn't make me feel weak for it. It was almost 10 when I finally walked back into the penthouse, still smiling, still warm from an evening of being treated like a human being. I closed the door quietly behind me and slipped off my shoes. Where were you? I screamed. My hand flew to my chest as I spun toward the living room. All the lights were off. But I could see him. A dark shape in the armchair by the window. The orange glow of the city skyline silhouetted his form. He'd been sitting there. In the dark. Waiting. For me. Mr. Kang, Where, he repeated slowly, were you? His voice was ice. cold enough to freeze the warmth right out of my chest. But his eyes. Even in the darkness, I could see them. Fixed on me. Burning. In 3 years, Kang Doo-jun had never once asked me a personal question. Until now. If you are enjoying this video, kindly do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 2. I couldn't move. My body stayed frozen in that doorway like my feet had grown roots into the marble. 3 years. 3 years of coming and going like a shadow, and Kang Doo-jun had never once noticed. Never cared whether I was home or gone or dead in a ditch somewhere. But now he was sitting in the dark like some kind of predator, waiting for me. Looking at me like I'd committed a crime. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I asked you a question. His voice cut through the darkness. Still cold. Still controlled. But there was something underneath it now. Something that didn't match the ice in his tone. Where were you? I swallowed hard and forced myself to stand straighter. I was not going to cower. Not tonight. Not after 3 years of being nothing to him. Out, I said. Out. He repeated the word like it was something dirty. Like it tasted bad in his mouth. Out where? Just, out. I had the evening off. I'm allowed to have a life outside this penthouse. Silence. He rose from the chair slowly. Unfolding like a shadow taking human form. He was still in his suit from earlier, but his tie was loosened, his collar open. He looked disheveled. Wrong. Kang Doo-jun was never disheveled. He took a step toward me. Then another. You've worked here for 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years. And you've never once come home late. Never once had anywhere to be. And tonight, suddenly, you're out until 10 o'clock with no explanation. I don't owe you an explanation. My voice came out stronger than I felt. You're my employer, not my keeper. Something flickered in his eyes. Is that what I am to you? Just your employer? The question caught me off guard. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. What was I supposed to say? No, you're the man I've been pathetically in love with for 3 years while you treated me like I didn't exist? You don't get to do this, I said instead. The words tumbled out before I could stop them, fueled by exhaustion and old hurt. You don't get to ignore me for 3 years and then suddenly demand to know where I've been. You don't get to pretend you care. Pretend? His voice dropped lower. Dangerous. Yes. Pretend. I was shaking now. I couldn't help it. Do you know how many times I've walked past you in this apartment? How many times I've served you dinner, cleaned your clothes, made your bed? And you've never once looked at me. Never once acknowledged that I exist. You don't even know my name. The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Accusing. Doo-jun went very still. For a long moment, he just stared at me. The city lights from the window caught the sharp angles of his face, the darkness in his eyes. I waited for him to fire me. To tell me to get out. To prove that I really was nothing to him. Instead, he spoke. Amara. My name. My name in his mouth. Spoken quietly. Deliberately. Like each syllable was something precious he'd been holding onto for too long. I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. My lungs forgot how to work. Amara Cole, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. 27 years old. Born in South Central Los Angeles. 1 younger brother, deceased. Mother passed away 14 months ago. You take your coffee with 2 sugars and no cream. You sing when you think no one's listening. You cry in the shower every year on October 15th, and I know that's the anniversary of your brother's death because I hear you through the walls and it takes everything in me not to. He stopped. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jump. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. He knew. He knew everything. He'd been paying attention this whole time, and I never knew. I never. It's none of your business, I whispered. It was the only defense I had left. Where I go, who I see. It's none of your business. I turned and walked to my room. He didn't stop me. Do-jun. She walked away. She walked away, and I let her, because I didn't trust what I would do if she stayed. The penthouse felt hollow after she left. Empty in a way it hadn't felt in 3 years. I stood in the darkness for a long time, staring at the hallway where she'd disappeared, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. Then I walked to the bar and poured myself a whiskey. My hand was shaking. I watched the amber liquid tremble in the glass and laughed bitterly. Kang Doo-jun, head of the Kang Syndicate. The man who'd made grown men weep with fear. Brought to shaking hands by a woman with sad eyes and a stubborn mouth. I drank the whiskey in one swallow and poured another. I'd been obsessed with her since the first day. I remembered it perfectly. She'd walked into my penthouse in a cheap dress that didn't fit right, her eyes red from crying, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. The agency had sent her. They'd said she was desperate, discreet, hardworking. They hadn't mentioned she was beautiful. They hadn't mentioned that one look at her would make my chest feel like it was cracking open. So I'd done the only thing I knew how to do. I looked through her. Built walls so high she could never climb them. Treated her like she was furniture because if I treated her like a woman, I would want her. And if I wanted her, I would care about her. And if I cared about her. I closed my eyes. I was 12 when they killed my mother. My father's enemies. They'd slit her throat in front of me as a message. As a lesson. Love is a knife they'll use to gut you. Care about someone, and they become a target. A weapon. A weakness. I'd learned that lesson well. Built my entire empire on it. Never let anyone close. Never let anyone matter. And then Amara Cole walked into my penthouse with her broken heart and her quiet strength, and I'd been losing that battle ever since. Tonight she'd walked away from me. It felt like bleeding out. Amara. I didn't sleep. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every look, every impossible thing he'd said. He knew my name. He knew about Marcus. He knew I cried on the anniversary of my brother's death. How was I supposed to make sense of that? By morning, I'd decided not to try. Some things were better left alone. Some doors were better left closed. Whatever last night had been, it didn't change anything. He was still my employer. I was still the help. And Vincent. Vincent actually wanted me. I texted him before I could talk myself out of it. Lunch? His response came immediately. Already planning on it. Noon. That Italian place on 7th. I spent the morning avoiding Doo-jun. It wasn't hard. He seemed to be avoiding me too. By 11:30, I'd changed into a simple yellow sundress and slipped out the service entrance. Vincent was waiting at the restaurant when I arrived. He stood when he saw me, his face breaking into a warm smile. You look beautiful. I felt myself blush. Thank you. Lunch was easy. Comfortable. He asked about my morning, and I told him it was fine. He told me about his day, meetings, phone calls, the boring business of running a criminal empire, though he made it sound almost charming. You work too hard, he said, refilling my wine glass. Both of you. Doo-jun especially. He's in that office until midnight most nights. Does he ever take a break? I shrugged. I wouldn't know. He doesn't exactly confide in me. Really? Vincent tilted his head, curious. I figured you'd know his schedule better than anyone. You practically run that penthouse. I just clean it. I took a sip of wine. He comes and goes. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. I don't keep track. What about security? Does he make you deal with all those keypads and alarms? I always thought that system was overkill. I laughed. I have a code for the service entrance. That's it. Everything else is above my pay grade. Vincent nodded thoughtfully. Then his hand reached across the table and covered mine. I looked up at him, startled. I like spending time with you, Amara, he said softly. I hope you know that. My heart stuttered. His hand was warm. Solid. Real. So different from the cold distance of the penthouse. Of him. I didn't pull away. Across the restaurant, hidden in a corner booth, a man in a dark jacket lowered his phone. On the screen, a photo of Amara and Vincent, hands intertwined. Later, Vincent excused himself to the restroom. He leaned against the sink, checking his phone. Typed a message to an unknown number. Phase 2 complete. She trusts me. He smiled at his reflection and walked back to the table. I came home at 4 o'clock. The penthouse was quiet. I kicked off my shoes and headed toward my room, still floating on the warmth of the afternoon. The door was already open. I stopped. Doo-jun was standing in the middle of my bedroom. In his hands, he held a framed photograph. The photograph. Marcus at 17, grinning at the camera, alive and whole and perfect. My blood turned to ice. Who is Marcus Cole to you? His voice was flat. Empty. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. He'd been in my room. He'd been going through my things. He'd been. And what, he continued, looking up at me with eyes like black ice, were you doing with Vincent Cha? If you are enjoying this video, kindly do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 3. My heart stopped. The photo of Marcus, my baby brother, dead at 19, gone 4 years now, trembled in Doo-jun's grip. That photo lived on my nightstand. I looked at it every morning when I woke up and every night before I fell asleep. It was the last piece of him I had left. And Doo-jun was holding it like he had any right to touch it. Put that down. My voice came out hoarse. Broken. Put it down right now. He didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on me, dark and unreadable, the photograph still clutched in his hands. Answer my question first. Something inside me snapped. I crossed the room in 3 steps and ripped the frame from his hands. My whole body was shaking. With rage. With grief. With the violation of having him here, in my space, touching the only sacred thing I had left. How dare you? I clutched Marcus's photo to my chest like I could protect him. Like I hadn't already failed to do that 4 years ago. How dare you go through my things? How dare you come into my room, Anne? You've been lying to me. I haven't lied to you about anything. You've been sneaking around with Vincent. His voice was still controlled, but I could hear the cracks now. See them in the tension of his jaw, the rigid set of his shoulders. You come home smelling like his cologne. You smile at your phone when he texts you. You. So what? I hurled the words at him. So what if I have? What does it matter to you? It matters. Why? I stepped closer to him, my fear dissolving into something hotter. Why does it matter, Doo-jun? You've ignored me for 3 years. 3 years of walking past me like I was a ghost. 3 years of never looking at me, never speaking to me, never. Because looking at you was dangerous. His composure cracked wide open. Because speaking to you would have led to touching you. And touching you would have led to wanting you. And wanting you. He stopped himself. Turned away. His hands were clenched at his sides, his breathing ragged. I stared at his back. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Because what? I whispered. You're jealous? Is that it? You've ignored me for 3 years, and now you're jealous? He spun back around. His eyes were blazing. Ignoring you was the only way I could survive you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt them in my chest, my stomach, the backs of my knees. The room tilted. Nothing made sense anymore. I don't. I shook my head. I don't understand. No. His voice was quieter now. Raw. You don't. Because I never let you. Silence fell between us. Heavy. Electric. Neither of us moved. I was afraid that if I did, I would shatter into 1,000 pieces and never put myself back together. Who is Marcus? He asked again. Softer this time. Please. Tell me. I looked down at the photograph in my hands. My brother's grin stared back at me. Frozen in time. Forever 19. Forever gone. He was my brother. The words came out cracked. My little brother. He died 4 years ago. Doo-jun was quiet. Waiting. He was walking home from his friend's house. I couldn't stop now. The words were pouring out like blood from a wound. Wrong place, wrong time. That's what the cop said. Gang crossfire. He wasn't involved in anything. He was just a kid. A stupid, sweet kid who wanted to be a music producer and made terrible jokes and called me every single day just to say hi. My voice broke. Tears spilled down my cheeks, hot and unstoppable. I couldn't afford to bury him. I couldn't afford anything. My mom was already sick, and the medical bills were drowning us, and I had nothing. So when the agency said there was a job, live-in housekeeper for some rich businessman, I took it. I didn't ask questions. I didn't care who you were or what you did. I just needed the money. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, but the tears kept coming. My mom died 14 months ago. You probably know that already, since you've been investigating me. And I stayed. I should have left. I should have found another job, gotten far away from this world. But I trailed off. The truth sat on my tongue like poison. You stayed because of me. His voice was barely audible. I looked up at him. Saw something crack behind his eyes. I stayed because I couldn't leave you. The confession ripped out of me. Even though you never saw me. Even though I was nothing to you. I couldn't make myself walk away. Something shifted in his face. Something I'd never seen before. He crossed the distance between us in 2 steps. His hand reached out. I flinched, expecting, I don't know what. For him to push me away. For him to tell me to leave. Instead, his thumb brushed across my cheek. Wiping away a tear. The touch was so gentle. So impossibly tender from a man whose hands had done terrible things. I felt it everywhere. In my skin. In my bones. In the hollow place where my heart used to be. I won't let anyone hurt you. His voice was rough. Fierce. Not Vincent. Not anyone. Do you understand? I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. His hand was still on my face. His thumb traced along my cheekbone, down to the corner of my mouth. His eyes dropped to my lips. Doo-jun. Don't. His voice was strained. Don't say my name like that. Not when I'm trying to be good. Not when I'm trying to. He stopped. Stepped closer. His other hand came up to cup the other side of my face, and suddenly I was cradled in his palms, held like something precious, something breakable. I've wanted you since the first day. The words seemed to cost him everything. Since you walked into my penthouse with your broken heart and your stubborn chin and looked at me like I wasn't a monster. I've wanted you every day since, and I've stayed away because wanting things is how you lose them. Caring is how you get people killed. I watched my mother die because my father loved her too much. I swore I would never. His forehead dropped to mine. His breath was warm on my lips. But I can't anymore. His voice broke. I can't stay away from you anymore. I tilted my face up. He was so close. An inch. Less than an inch. I could feel the heat of him, the tension in his body, the tremble in his hands. His phone rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass. Doo-jun jerked back, pulling his phone from his pocket with a muttered curse. I watched his face change as he listened, the softness disappearing, the mask slamming back into place. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at me. Something like pain flickered in his eyes. I have to go. There's an emergency at the warehouse. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He moved toward the door. Stopped. Turned back. Don't see him again. His voice was quiet. Vincent. Don't see him again. I'm asking. Not ordering. I looked at this man who had ignored me for 3 years. Who had just cradled my face in his hands like I was the most precious thing in the world. Who had confessed to wanting me with a voice like breaking glass. Okay, I whispered. He held my gaze for one long moment. Then he was gone. I stood in the middle of my room, heart pounding, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. My lips still tingled with the ghost of a kiss that never came. My phone buzzed. I looked down at the screen. Vincent's name glowed in the dim room. I know what really happened to your brother. Meet me tonight if you want the truth. I stared at the message. Read it again. Again. Marcus's death was random gang violence. Wrong place, wrong time. That's what the police said. That's what I'd believed for 4 years. That's what I'd built my grief around, the senselessness of it. The cruel randomness of a universe that took sweet boys and left monsters. But what if it wasn't random? What if there was a reason? A person? A name? I thought about Doo-jun's face when he'd asked about Marcus. The way he'd been investigating me. The way he'd warned me away from Vincent. What did he know that I didn't? I looked at the photo of my brother. His grin. His stupid, beautiful, 19-year-old face. I'd promised Doo-jun I wouldn't see Vincent again. But some promises were made to be broken. I grabbed my coat. If you are enjoying this video, kindly do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 4. The warehouse on the docks was exactly the kind of place Marcus would have told me never to go. Rusted shipping containers stacked like giants building blocks. Flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. The smell of salt and diesel and something darker underneath. This was the kind of place where bad things happened to good people. The kind of place where bodies disappeared. I went anyway. Some truths are worth dying for. Vincent was waiting inside, leaning against a metal table in the center of the empty space. He looked different here. The warm smile was gone. The gentle eyes had sharpened into something harder. He was wearing all black, and for the first time, I noticed the gun holstered at his hip. You came. He sounded almost surprised. I wasn't sure you would. You said you knew what happened to my brother. My voice echoed in the cavernous space. So tell me. Vincent straightened. Gestured to the table behind him. Come. See for yourself. I walked toward him on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. The table was covered with documents. Photographs. Police reports. Things that looked official. Things that looked damning. 4 years ago, Vincent began, his voice clinical now, a young man named Amara Cole was shot and killed in South Central Los Angeles. The police ruled it gang violence. Random crossfire. Case closed. I stared at a photograph of my brother's body on the pavement. The blood. The stillness. I'd never seen this photo before. I didn't know it existed. But it wasn't random. Vincent picked up a document and handed it to me. Marcus was targeted. Specifically. Deliberately. My hands shook as I took the paper. It was some kind of internal memo. Official looking. A seal at the top that I recognized, the Kang family crest. I don't understand. There was a man named Jerome Washington. He ran a small operation in South Central. Nothing major. But he owed the Kang syndicate money. A lot of money. And he wasn't paying. Vincent's voice was steady. Almost gentle. Like he was explaining something simple to a child. The syndicate needed to send a message. They needed Jerome to understand that debts get paid, one way or another. So they took something from him. Something precious. My blood turned to ice. Jerome Washington was your brother's godfather, Amara. Did you know that? They grew up together. Jerome loved Marcus like a son. No. No, no, no. So when Kang Doo-jun needed to make an example, Vincent let the sentence hang. I couldn't breathe. The document in my hands blurred as tears filled my eyes. You're lying. The words came out broken. You're lying. Marcus wasn't. He wasn't involved in any of this. He was just a kid. He was a message. Vincent's voice hardened. Your brother died because Kang Doo-jun needed Jerome Washington to understand the cost of defiance. Marcus was innocent. And Doo-jun murdered him anyway. The warehouse spun around me. I reached for the table to steady myself, sending photographs scattering to the floor. My brother's dead eyes stared up at me from a dozen different angles. The man I loved killed my brother. The man who had wiped tears from my cheek. Who had held my face in his hands like I was precious. Who had confessed to wanting me with a voice like broken glass. He murdered Marcus. I know this is hard. Vincent moved closer. His hand touched my shoulder. I know it feels like the world is ending. But you have a choice now, Amara. You can let him get away with it. Let him keep living in that penthouse, untouchable, unpunished. Or you can do something. I looked up at him through my tears. What? Help me take him down. Vincent's eyes glittered in the fluorescent light. Help me bring him to justice. For Marcus. For everyone else he's destroyed. How? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small USB drive. Black. Unassuming. The size of my thumb. Doo-jun keeps records of everything. Every deal. Every crime. Every body. It's all on his personal computer in his office. If you can plug this in, it'll download everything. Enough evidence to destroy him. Enough to put him away forever. I stared at the drive. Such a small thing. Such a simple thing. Why me? My voice cracked. Why do you need me to do it? Because you have access. Because he trusts you. Vincent paused. Something flickered across his face. Because after what he did to your family, you deserve to be the one who ends him. I thought about Marcus. His laugh. His stupid jokes. The way he used to call me every day just to say hi. I thought about Doo-jun. His cold eyes. His warm hands. The way he'd said my name like a confession. I thought about the truth. I took the drive. You're doing the right thing. Vincent squeezed my shoulder. You'll be a hero, Amara. You'll avenge your brother. And when it's over, you'll finally be free. I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. I left the warehouse with the USB drive clutched in my fist like a weapon. Doo-jun. The emergency at the warehouse had been nothing. A false alarm. A wasted trip. By the time I got back to the penthouse, the sun was setting and my instincts were screaming that something was wrong. Amara's coat was gone. I called Minister Kwan immediately. Tell me you have something on Vincent. The old man's voice was grave. I do, sir. And it's worse than we thought. I closed my eyes. Tell me. Vincent Cha has been in contact with the Hayashi faction for the past 6 months. They're planning a coup. They want to take over the syndicate, and they're using Vincent as their inside man. My hand tightened on the phone. Vincent. My right hand. My closest friend since childhood. The man I would have trusted with my life. There's more. Kwon hesitated. Something he never did. I investigated the Marcus Cole situation. The shooting 4 years ago. My blood ran cold. And? The order didn't come from you, sir. It never did. The seal on the document was forged. Someone used your authority without your knowledge. Who? Silence. Then, quietly, Vincent. The world stopped. Vincent killed her brother. Vincent forged my seal to do it. Vincent had been playing this game for 4 years, setting up pieces I didn't even know were on the board. And now he had Amara. He's been seeing her. The words tasted like poison. Taking her to lunch. Calling her. He's been grooming her, sir. Kwon's voice was heavy. Using her grief to turn her against you. I suspect he's already told her that you were responsible for her brother's death. I felt something crack inside my chest. She'll believe him. My voice came out hollow. Why wouldn't she? She has no reason to trust me. I never gave her one. What do you want me to do, sir? I was already moving toward the door. Where is she? She left an hour ago. Alone. My men tracked her to the docks, but she's already on her way back. The docks. Where Vincent conducted his private business. Where he'd have laid out his lies and evidence and turned my maid into a weapon pointed at my heart. Sir, if she's been compromised. She's not compromised. My voice was harder than I meant it to be. She's been manipulated. There's a difference. What if she tries something? I didn't answer. I was already in the elevator, already punching the button for the penthouse, already running through scenarios in my head. Amara was walking into a trap. She just didn't know who had really said it. Amara. The penthouse was dark when I returned. Good. I moved through the familiar rooms like the ghost I'd always been, my heart pounding so loud I was sure it would wake the dead. The USB drive was slick with sweat in my palm. Doo-jun's office was at the end of the hall. The door was unlocked. I slipped inside and closed the door behind me. The computer sat on his desk, screen dark, waiting. All I had to do was plug in the drive. A few minutes to download. And then it would be over. Justice for Marcus. My hands trembled as I approached the desk. I thought about my brother's smile. His laugh. The way he'd looked up to me like I could fix anything. I'm doing this for you, I told him silently. I'm making it right. Tears streamed down my face as I plugged the USB drive into the port. The screen flickered to life. A progress bar appeared. Downloading. I stood there, shaking, watching the numbers climb. 50%. 60. 70. The door opened behind me. Amara. I spun around. Doo-jun stood in the doorway. His face was calm. Controlled. That familiar mask of ice. But the gun in his hand was pointed at my heart. Step away from the computer. If you are enjoying this video, kindly do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 5. The gun doesn't waver. Neither does he. I stare at the man I love, the man I believe murdered my brother, and wait for the bullet. My tears have stopped. My hands have stopped shaking. There's something almost peaceful about this moment. The end of everything. The truth laid bare. Do it. My voice is steady. Dead. If you're going to kill me like you killed Marcus, just do it. Something flickers in Doo-jun's eyes. Pain. Real pain. You think I killed your brother? I know you did. The words rip out of me. I saw the documents. I saw your seal. You murdered a 19-year-old boy to send a message, and then you hired his sister to clean your floors. What kind of monster does that? The kind of monster Vincent wanted you to believe I was. He lowers the gun. Slowly. Deliberately. Sets it on the table beside the door. I didn't kill Marcus, Amara. Liar. I'm a lot of things. He takes a step toward me. I've done terrible things. I've ordered deaths. I've destroyed lives. But I did not kill your brother. The order had your seal. The seal was forged. I freeze. Vincent forged it. Doo-jun's voice is quiet. Controlled. But I can hear the rage underneath, barely contained. For years ago, he wanted to expand into South Central. I said no. Too much heat, too little profit. So he went behind my back. Made his own deals. When Jerome Washington couldn't pay, Vincent decided to send a message using my authority. My name. My seal. No. He killed your brother, Amara. And then he spent 4 years waiting for the perfect moment to use that death against me. No. 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 You're lying. But my voice wavers now. You're just trying to. Minister Kwan has been investigating for weeks. The evidence is irrefutable. Vincent has been working with the Hayashi faction. They're planning a coup tonight. And that USB drive you just plugged in? He gestures toward the computer. It's not downloading evidence. It's uploading a virus. It's going to disable every security system in this building. I look at the screen. The progress bar reads 100%. Complete. In about 5 minutes, Vincent's men are going to breach this penthouse. And he's going to kill everyone inside. Including you. My legs give out. I crumple to the floor, my back against the desk, my world shattering into pieces around me. I've been a fool. A desperate, grieving fool. I let Vincent see my pain and he used it. Shaped it. Turned me into a weapon pointed at the only man who ever really saw me. He killed Marcus. The words come out broken. He killed my brother, and I helped him. Doo-jun crosses the room and kneels in front of me. His hands cup my face, forcing me to look at him. You didn't know. He manipulated you. The lights went out. Red emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in crimson. Alarms screamed through the penthouse like wounded animals. Doo-jun pulled me to my feet in one swift motion. His gun was back in his hand. He reached behind his back and produced a second weapon, pressing it into my palm. Do you know how to use this? I thought about Marcus. About the gun safety classes he'd begged me to take after he died. The hours I'd spent at the range, trying to feel less helpless. Yes. Good. His eyes met mine. Stay behind me. The first door exploded inward. Men in black tactical gear poured through, guns raised. Doo-jun moved like water, like shadow, like death itself. 3 shots. 3 bodies. He grabbed my hand and pulled me through the living room as bullets shattered the windows behind us. I'd never seen him like this. Cold. Precise. Terrifying. Every movement calculated. Every bullet finding its mark. This was the man the streets whispered about. The man who had built an empire on blood and fear. He was beautiful. He was monstrous. He was mine. We fought through the penthouse room by room. I fired when I had to, my hand steadier than I expected. A man came at me from the left. I squeezed the trigger. He fell. I didn't let myself think about it. Panic room. Doo-jun's voice cut through the chaos. End of the hall. Go. We ran. The door to the panic room was reinforced steel. Doo-jun punched in a code, and it swung open. Vincent was waiting inside. He stood in the center of the room, gun raised, a smile on his face that made my stomach turn. Behind him, 3 more armed men blocked any escape. "Hello, old friend." Vincent's voice was pleasant. Conversational. Like we'd run into each other at a dinner party. "I was hoping you'd make it this far. It would have been disappointing if my men had finished you off before I got the chance." Doo-jun pushed me behind him, his gun trained on Vincent. "It's over, Vincent. Kwon knows everything. The families know everything. You've already lost." "Have I?" Vincent tilted his head. "I have 30 men in this building. I have the security systems disabled. And in about an hour, I'll have the heads of every major family convinced that you died in a tragic accident, leaving me as the natural successor to the Kang syndicate." "You killed her brother." Vincent's smile widened. He looked at me over Doo-jun's shoulder. "I did. And I have to say, Amara, you made it almost too easy. All those lunches. All that sympathy. All I had to do was give you someone to blame, and you did the rest." He laughed softly. "You were so desperate to be loved. So easy to manipulate. The perfect little weapon." Something in Doo-jun snapped. He moved faster than I'd ever seen anyone move. Faster than Vincent expected. The gun fired, once, twice, and Doo-jun took a bullet to the shoulder. But he didn't stop. He crashed into Vincent, and they went down in a tangle of limbs and fury. The guards raised their weapons. I raised mine first. 2 shots. 2 bodies. The third guard hesitated, and I put a bullet in his chest before he could decide. Vincent threw Doo-jun off and scrambled for his gun. Found it. Swung it toward me. "You stupid little." I fired twice. Center mass. Vincent's eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked down at the red blooming across his chest, then back up at me. He fell. Silence. Blood and smoke and the distant wail of sirens. The red emergency lights painted everything in shades of crimson. I dropped the gun. My hands were shaking now. My whole body was shaking. Doo-jun pulled himself up, clutching his bleeding shoulder. He crossed the room in 3 unsteady steps and pulled me into his arms. "I should have told you." His voice was ragged against my hair. "Every day. I should have said your name like a prayer. I should have let you see me. I should have." I kissed him to shut him up. His good arm wrapped around me, pulling me closer, and he kissed me back like I was air and he was drowning. Like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. We stood there in the blood and the silence, holding on to each other, finally whole. Epilogue, 6 months later. I don't clean the penthouse anymore. I live in it now, as Doo-jun's partner. His equal. The woman who stands beside him at meetings and dinners and all the dangerous, glittering events that make up his world. Today, I visit Marcus's grave. The cemetery is quiet in the morning light. I kneel in the grass and trace my fingers over his name, carved in stone. "I got him," I whisper. "The man who killed you. He's gone. And I'm okay. I'm finally okay." A hand settles on my shoulder. Warm. Steady. I look up at Doo-jun. He's wearing a simple black coat, his face softer than it used to be. There are smile lines around his eyes now. I put them there. "I will spend the rest of my life," he says quietly, "making sure you never feel invisible again." I rise and take his hand. We walk away together, leaving flowers on my brother's grave and ghosts in our wake. She came to his house as a maid. She stayed as his equal. And she taught the most dangerous man in Los Angeles how to love. I know you enjoyed this video. Do well to not forget hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. Also drop your thoughts in the comments section and share this video to family and friends. The end.